here. Beautiful. Such a great name. Is your name Virginia? And it is Ginger. My name's Jimmy. Like and my Uncle Bobby. Seriously, my Uncle Bobby was Bobby. It wasn't Robert. You know. So you're Ginger on your. You're Jackie? Yeah, you're Jackie. Oh, really? What were our parents thinking? All right, now you can. Now you may start us, please. It's October. What? What the what? I know. I'm glad too, but is time going by so fast? Anyway, I'm glad it's October. It's a great month. I got a lot of good stuff to tell you today, but I don't want to repeat myself, so I'll save it for everybody else. And love everybody's energy. Y'all are so cute, sweet, wonderful. No, seriously, I mean that. If you weren't cute, I wouldn't tell you. I would just be like, oh, they bless their hearts. They mean well. They're not all that cute, but they drive here on Sundays. But y'all actually are cute, so good for y'all. Okay, we're in the flow today. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful month. We're excited about what's going to happen here today. We're already energized just by being here because we bring a certain agreement to this place. I mean, there's nothing particularly holy about this theater. It becomes holy because we're here and we're in one mind and one accord, and where two or more are gathered together, there is a manifestation of the Christ. And today it's going to be a very special manifestation. We expect that. We believe that. And we're ready for it. And everybody said, amen. Please remain standing. Let's run this, and we will get officially started. Before and after. Welcome, good morning, buenos dias, bonjour, willkommen. Welcome to the most awesome group of spiritual people in one mind and one accord meeting in the hippest little theater in the coolest part of the awesomest city in the entire world. This is the place to be, and you have chosen well. You have not chosen poorly. Chosen well. I got so many good things to tell you about today. October, I don't believe in having a favorite month, but if you just pressed me on it, I would go, okay, October is. And so I always, seems like good things always happen in October, and I just like it for a lot of reasons. And this is going to be a great month. It's good to see all of you here, the ones I see every week and the ones I haven't seen in a minute. I'm just glad you're here. Nobody's asking where you've been. We're just happy you're here now. Happy you found us back. I ain't got time to say, where have you been? I'm like, just happy to see you. And no questions asked, just happy to see you. I'm always thrilled to have any of my kids with me, but Jonah, there's certainly something special about his gift and his get it factor. And as I've told you before, he really helped me in a lot of ways plan Metron. And when we were shaping the ideas for it, he was a confirmation for me in a lot of ways. So it's not just that he's talented, he's just very insightful and spiritual in the good way. You know what I mean? It's like he's not religious, he's spiritual, and he was raised right. But I'm always happy to have him. Next month, I'll go ahead and announce to you, our artist of the month is our very own Lady E. So we're looking forward to a great November, and then December. I don't know who all's going to be for December, but I know John Scott's going to be back the first Sunday of December. So he'll be doing some music that day. I may just let him do the whole day. That I'm not sure what we're going to do. Hey y'all. So a lot of good stuff coming up. I love it all, but I'm happy it's October. I'm happy my son is here. I won't call him my favorite son anymore because it seemed to have, he was fine with it, but I think the other siblings were like, okay, you've made your point. Enough already. Even my mom, last Sunday night, my mom said, yeah, well, Jonah, like last time he was there, he even sang one of the songs you wrote. I said, I know, that's why he's my favorite. I'm telling you, it's not without merit. I mean, he earned it. But I won't say that anymore in case the other three might be listening in today. Without any further ado, would you please welcome the one, the only Jonah Swilley. Jonah!
Hey guys, y'all can sit down. Good morning.
Hey Charles, can I get a little reverb on this? Actually, as much reverb as without sounding crazy. All right, awesome. It is a good morning. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we see, I won't be afraid, no I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me. I'm not going to say I'm winging it today, but I found out this week that I was doing this, so I was like, between just like everything else, I was putting these songs together. But I'm really excited about these songs. I'm just trying to work them out. So yeah, so bear with me today, and just yeah. So yeah, this next one is it's a newer song, but it sounds like an older song. But hopefully you guys like it. And Charles, if I could get just a little more vocals, that'd be awesome. Travel down this road so long. once there's blood on my hands and my lips are unclean. Oh, take me to your river. I wanna go. Oh, take me to your river. I wanna know. Oh no, 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 no. I wanna go, wanna go, wanna go, wanna go. I wanna go, wanna go, wanna go, wanna go. I wanna go, wanna go, wanna go, wanna go. Take me to your river. I wanna go. Oh, take me to your river. I wanna know. And that's it, Charles. That's the tune, right? Everybody still doing all right? I've done so many shows. I did 2 shows the last 2 nights, very late, mind you. And it's just like such a culture shock in a good way. Just cause like, you know, you play at like super smoky clubs. And like, but a great time. Just, I'm happy to be here this morning. All right, I really like this song, and I guess Bob Dylan wrote it, but yeah, I'm gonna try to do my best job. And then the version I'm doing is a Nina Simone version, which I like a lot. So. They say everything shall be replaced. Yeah, every distance is not near. So I remember every face of every man who got me here. I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. Say every man needs protection, and every man must fall. When I see my own reflection so high above this wall, I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. Standing next to me in this lonely crowd is a man who's not to blame. All day long I him shout so loud, crying out that he was free. I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. See my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released. See my light go shining. I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, any day now, I shall be released.
Yay!
Thanks, guys. Love you.
Jonas Swilley, awesome. Yay. You sound really good. Your voice sounds good. Excellent. I'd never know you've been singing in smoky clubs because your voice sounds good and clear. I love it, love it, love it, love it. Y'all may be seated. And I'm happy that I have a hip enough audience that knows who Nina Simone is. That's good. You could say, you say? That's good stuff. What, did y'all have your Gartrells? Jonah does his own thing. Then he has a band called Black Linen. Then he's in a band with Jared and a couple other guys called the Gartrells. And then he also travels as a drummer with Curtis Harding. If you've ever heard Curtis Harding, he's amazing. And so, you know, sometimes he's the singer, sometimes he's the guitarist, sometimes he's the... I'm glad when he's the drummer, because those drum lessons, they was expensive. I'm just happy when he tells me he plays drums for Curtis. I'm like, did they pay you? And he goes, good. I'm glad. But yeah, that was good. And we have 5 Sundays this month, so he'll be here all month. But there's one Sunday he already had a previous engagement, so Marshall's going to be coming in, and you know, it's all good. I was noticing when Avery did the shout out last week, this is 40th week, so we only have 12 weeks left in the year. That just sounded so I thought, wow, if we're going to get through all these vitamins, we're going to have to do them. Well, I think we can do them. We'll just have to do them all in sync. We did if you don't know what I'm talking about, we're doing a thing this year called Year of Living Your Best Life, where we just challenge people to, you know, be a little healthier, and it's not always physical stuff, but a lot of times it is. Your physical body is sort of the it's how your spirit manifests itself on the earth. You know, you've heard the famous saying, and the Police did a song, we are spirits in the material world. So, of course, we're all about spiritual health and everything, but if your physical body isn't everything it should be, then you're limited to how much your spirit can be, you know, top form. So I don't make any apology. I'd say the majority of them have been physical. Some of them have been, you know, like we'll do one more pay it forward before the year's up. But last week we've done vitamin C, vitamin D, B12, B1. There's a bunch of Bs. I don't know why there's so many Bs. But this was vitamin B1, and vitamin B1 is it's whatever you want it to be, whatever you visualize vitamin B1. that's what it is. Um, and a lot of the B's are very similar. Like some of the ones you see for B1 is the same thing for B3 or whatever. There's vitamin B1 is also called thiamine. Vitamin B2, which we'll be doing this week, is riboflavin. And I don't know if you know this. Oh, there we are. That was Ken eating some edamame the other night. And no, Donald Cofield is not Eddie Murphy. It's edamame. And that's my kale shake. Walt was saying about kale. They've got a really. If you've ever gone to Arden's Garden, they have really good. If you have a hard time getting down your vegetables, they can make really cool smoothies. Like in that, it was like an entire. I couldn't believe how much kale he put in that thing, and then it yields down, and he puts ginger and pineapple in it. It's good. There's one right over here, right down the street, and that was. Some peas and rice that Avery had, and whose asparagus was that? That's Jackie. Asparagus looks like a work of art. What did you have? What did you have on that? What is it? Oh, I love asparagus, and that was yesterday. I'm sorry, my big red head. There, we were out on the lake all day yesterday. We didn't post pictures because we were with Ken's boss, and the other guys didn't get invited, so we didn't want to post those. But we had just gotten off 3 hours off Lake Sinclair, and they did a low country boil last night. So we had some corn on the cob. That was not a fake smile. That's really how much I love corn on the cob. And let's see, whose is this right here? Avery's. Is that your pistachio? Oh, I love me some pistachios now. So good stuff. Good pictures. They say vitamin B2 is the only vitamin that you can see it going through your body. Let me say it this way. The flavin means yellow, okay? Need I say more? So if you're eating vitamin B2 and you're like, wow, we're in Technicolor here, it's because that's actually a good sign, as weird as that may sound. I don't usually discuss people's, I'm not talking to you. I got an I7, and this Siri is way too helpful. Like every few minutes, he's like, I didn't get that. I'm like, it's because I'm not talking to you. Like, settle down. And then when I do talk to him, he doesn't understand. We have laughed so much, some of the things he thinks I've said. I'm like, how did you get that, Siri? No. Anyway, there we go. It's probably my fault. Oh, now
Okay, give me a moment. Okay, I found this on the web for any way I'll do ego is from my phone.
See what I mean? Anyway, B2 is riboflavin, and very similar to B1, but there's I noticed Tony had made a pot of collard greens. Greens are in B2. I also noticed popcorn, so for you popcorn fans, so that's good. And it's odd, some of the things that vitamins are in. You think, wow, it's odd that it would be in that, and not, like I was reading recently, like broccoli has more vitamin C than oranges do. And you always think of oranges as vitamin C. So that's honestly, that's one of the main things I love about doing these, is because it makes you learn about stuff that you thought you already knew. And yeah, mushrooms. A lot of people don't like mushrooms. I love them, and I'm glad to know that they have some nutritional value, because I was under the impression that they just were good to eat, but they're actually. Anyway, I'll post a thing about it today, and almonds do. Almonds are always good. Just grab a handful of almonds every day and just pop a few. They're so good on so many levels, and they're delicious. So anyway, we did B1 last week. We'll do B2 this week. All right. Our outreach for this month, I actually was going to do it last month, but we did the flooding in Louisiana. But I do like the Alzheimer's organization, because they're doing a lot of research, and they really are looking for a cure for it. And I love when people have that in mind. So, like I said, our contribution is, it is what it is, but it's the point of just doing something. You know what I mean? It's like, and now apparently Metron has gotten the reputation of giving to charities, because now, like, just about every Thursday when I meet, I get so many. I guess they all like, hey, call Metron. But I'm glad. I would rather be the guy that everybody thinks is going to give to good things than, believe me, it could be worse. So I'm glad. And sometimes I will look at them and go, okay, that's good. I'll consider that. It's possible. But one reason I wanted to do Alzheimer's is because you normally associate that with the elderly, and we've done so much for children's charities in the last 2 years. I thought, well, that's probably a good balance to do something for people who are on the other end of the spectrum. So we'll be sending that out, I'm sure, this week. Thank God we stay ahead enough that when we want to give, when we first started, we had to wait at the end of the month to send the check. Now we just go ahead and send it at the beginning. So that's awesome. That's a good sign. So that's good. Our event is I have done so much research about what to do for fall, because the fall trip's got to be the best. So this year we did Smith House last year. We did Dillard House the year before that. I want to go to Chattanooga this time, and this is what we're going to do on Saturday the 22nd. It's right up 75. And there is a place, I've actually never eaten there, but it's famous. It's not pretty. It's not, but it's called B's Restaurant. And Obama ate there when he was coming through Chattanooga, and it's kind of like their Smith House. It's like, what? Yeah, it's slam. It's like, they say it's the best fried chicken in the world. And it's one of those places where they do a Lazy Susan, and they put, the guy was great that answered the phone. I was asking him, and he just spit out everything they have on there. I don't care if you're a vegetarian, if you're Southern, if whatever, there will be something on this buffet that you like. It's only $12.50, which is great. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna meet at B's Restaurant. It's a little south of Chattanooga. It's like right before you get into Chattanooga. Like I said, do not expect luxury. It's just good food on a Lazy Susan. So if you're wanting ambiance, this is not what you're looking for. I can't believe we've never been there. This is the kind of place that we love. I love this kind of stuff. So I guess I was just waiting for that to happen. And so this is what I'd like to do. There's a lot you can do in Chattanooga, and a lot of it's expensive. I even looked at, there's a cool little train ride from Blairsville that goes up to McKaysville, but it's like $50-something a ticket, and I don't know. I mean, it's got to be really good to be, I'm going to pay $50. I don't want to get y'all. I mean, some of y'all would do it, but then I'd be under pressure, like, I don't know if this is worth $50. But this, because, I don't mind spending money if it's worth it, but I'm looking out for you. I want to make sure you get your money's worth and all that kind of stuff. So this is what I want to do. We're going to meet at B's Restaurant. We're going to be up there the night before, so we'll meet y'all there. And then we can go to the riverfront there in Chattanooga. Is beautiful. Just to go check that out. And I'd also like to, you can just drive up to the top of Lookout Mountain. There's a place called Point Park, and I think it's like $5 to get in or something. And but it's the most spectacular view. It's why they call it Lookout Mountain. It's what you look out over. Yeah, that's called Moccasin Bend, and it's beautiful. And it is what it is. It's Civil War. It's Confederate history. I mean, y'all know where I stand on that. That's a part of our history. I just want you to go see how beautiful it is up there. The first time I took Ken up there, he had never been there, and it was foggy that day. So we're standing there, and you can't see it in front of you. I said, you have no idea what is right there that you can't see. It was very kind of a spiritual lesson. So we went back when it was clear, and he was freaking out over it. I said, I know, that's what I was trying to make you visualize. But anyway, so it's going to be a very low-cost day because there's a lot of stuff you can do. Just going around looking at stuff in Chattanooga that doesn't cost anything. Then, if some of you want to do Rock City or something like that, I'm open to it. If you know, I think it's around 34 or something to go through Rock City. It will probably be crowded that day, but if you've never been through Rock City, it's very cool. But I'm going to leave that part of it up to y'all. The only part that's going to be our actual event is going to eat at B's Restaurant, and then I want to take you on a little sightseeing. And the rest of it, if you want to, while you're up there, if you want to go see stuff, it's definitely cool, and I love it. Chattanooga's kind of our home away from home. It's just I grew up around that area. My dad used to pastor a church not far from there, and my first memories were at when it was still the Chattanooga, when it was the actual train station, you know. And so anyway, that's going to be on the 22nd. So mark that down. It's going to be the best fall trip we've ever taken in all of our years of Metron. This is our third fall. Can you believe it? What? Oh, and here's some other good news. You know, we sort of announced that we had Collinwald for the 13th. Well, it's for sure. We got it. We still got to work out the details, but go ahead and that's Tuesday, December 13th. Put that on your calendar. We're going to be at Collinwald. It's the old Candler Mansion, and it's spectacular. And it will be the last night of the decorators showcase that they have there. That's why I wanted to do it when you could see the house, because the house is usually decorated like this. So we'll be there. And what I had visualized is I don't want it to be like a banquet. I want it to be like in a big, fantastic room with a fireplace, and we can do Christmas carols and just have hors d'oeuvres, and it's going to be a really cool party. We got to work out some things about parking and that kind of stuff, but we'll get all that done. But that's going to be really cool, and that's actually Jackie's birthday, and she said she'd always wanted to go to Collinwood. I said, "Oh, so you made this happen? This was your intention that we're all just." She said, "You're welcome." Ultimately, we all eventually get what we want. So the other people, it's like when somebody comes up to me and says, "That sermon today was just for me." I'm like, "Really?" Because the previous 5 people just told me that, but I'm glad you enjoyed it because it wasn't really about any of y'all. I was preaching to myself. Glad you thought it was you. But the thing is, we are all us. So when somebody's happy, everybody's happy. So that's going to be really cool. I love doing stuff every month, but fall and Christmas, those are my two. That's high priority. And last year our Christmas party was so cool. That was such a great one, and so this one is going to even take it to the next level. Let's see. Is that everything I needed to announce? I believe it is. All right. We speak into this atmosphere and we say, "Let there be light." I love what we're going to be talking about this month. Jesus said to his disciples this very unusual statement. He said, "Take up your cross and follow me." Now that's, you've heard that in Christianity, so that doesn't sound that unusual. But that, if you think of the cross as being this one unique thing that Jesus did, then why would he tell us to take up our cross? If his dying on the cross was this one event that only he could do, then why wouldn't he have said, "I'm going to the cross. I got this for everybody"? And some of you that grew up in old Pentecostal church, even Vicki Winans does a song, "Must Jesus bear the cross alone and all the world go free?" Usually, the lyric says, "No, there is a cross for everyone. There's a cross for me." And usually, people preach it in a way of like it's a negative thing, like there's something horrible you've got to go through, like Jesus went through his cross. And life is life. We've all been through our death and resurrection experiences. Where I want to take it to is, Jesus was manifested in a culture at a time that crucifixion was the mode of execution that the Roman government used. It wasn't the Jews stoned people for execution, but he adapted himself to that culture and became what those people needed at that time. And, we've been saying this for a little over a year now, and I keep finding more and more people who are on the same page as me about this. We love the cross. We cherish the cross. We believe in the cross. But we believe the cross was for us. It wasn't for God. God always loved us. I've gotten to the place now, I don't even accept the idea of the fall in the conventional way, the fall of man. Because like I taught you last month, God comes to walk with Adam in the cool of the day. And this is the all-knowing God who, if he knows everything, why wouldn't he have known they ate from the tree? And yet, even though they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, he comes and meets them in the garden, just like always. Adam, where are you? He didn't say fallen Adam, where are you? He didn't say sinful Adam. He didn't say naked Adam. He just said, Adam, where are you? In other words, nothing has changed. Our relationship is unbroken. And it was Adam that hides. It was Adam that says, I hid from you because I was naked. And it's not like God said, you sure are naked. It wasn't like he said, whoa, Adam, Eve, put some clothes on. He said, who told you were naked? In other words, this is your cut off from me. I didn't cut you off. And that changes everything. Now, I would never do anything to diminish the atonement and all the stuff we've been taught in Christianity. But I believe it has to be looked at in the true light. Everything has to be rightly divided. So I believe the cross is important because perception is important. And if those people in that culture believed that they were separated and needed a blood sacrifice, and you can see it from several things that Jesus said, the cross was not plan A. He was like, oh, well, and if even necessary, I'll go to the cross. Even as late as the Garden of Gethsemane. If there's any way, let this cup pass from me. He came, he was the Word made flesh. He became one of us so that we can identify with him. I will never, like all those things I learned in my early walk with the Lord, like from E.W. Kenyon about substitution and identification, that we were identified with him on the cross. And I believe all of that and always will. I just believe it's because we believed we were fallen. And Paul came along and said, no longer be alienated from God in your minds. I believe the eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was a deal breaker because Adam believed it was a deal breaker. What's that got to do with what we're talking about? Okay, well, I believe when the scripture calls Jesus the first fruits or the firstborn of many brethren, it means that, and I've been teaching you this for years, it means that everything that Jesus went through, we're going to go through on some level. And it's a good thing. Like we have our miracles, we have our parables, we are disciples. Even the fact that Jesus chose this really diverse group of 12 men. One was a criminal, one was a tax collector, a couple of them were his first cousins. I mean, it was just a wide array of people, which shows us that every personality type is welcome at the table. That's why I serve communion this way. When Jesus said, this is my body, he was like, every one of y'all, including Judas. You know? When it says Satan entered Judas to go betray him, Jesus didn't say, Satan, come out of him. Jesus said, whatever you're going to do it quickly. Fulfill the thing that you do. Because as painful as it is for me on a personal level, it's necessary that you do it. And if you can get outside your emotions, haven't you all learned that at some point? Wasn't there somebody in your life that betrayed you that as painful as it was, and remember Jesus said, if it hadn't been a friend of mine, I could have borne it. I mean, it was painful for him. And yet it becomes a liberating thing sometimes. If you learn how to be proactive, you're like, well, you know what? This person stabbing me in the back wasn't the end of the world. And I thought if they turned on me, I could never make it. But guess what? They turned on me. And not only did I make it, somehow I came out of this thing even better than I was before. So thank you, Judases, all of you. And man, if you could ever get over on that side of it and stay there, I'm not saying I'm totally there yet, but I'm over there a bunch of the time. When you can finally say, oh man, anything that anybody ever did to me, it's all good. I embrace all of it. I don't deny the pain it caused, but in the big picture, everything worked together for my good. Again, what's this got to do with this? Well, if everybody has a cross, then how far can we take this terminology? If Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, then wouldn't we all have our own kingdoms as well? some of you might remember there was a song back in the 70s that was real popular in Christian churches. It was Jesus be the Lord of all, Jesus be the Lord of all, Jesus be the Lord of all the kingdoms of my heart. And the whole idea of the song was that my heart has kingdoms that have to be surrendered. It was all about the lordship of Jesus. I want to talk about this month not just unlocking the kingdom of God, but unlocking the kingdom of you. And I'm going to show you from these scriptures what a powerful concept this is. Let me, so I'm calling it recognizing the keys of your kingdom, unlocking your true self, and living the liberated life. Now I want to go back, first of all, I haven't taught on David and Goliath in a long time, but I want to go back and show you this part of the David and Goliath story that I think people just miss. They miss this very key element. Now before we get to, 1 Samuel 17? Before we get there, let me just give you a little backstory instead of just reading you a lot of scripture. David was, to say David was unconventional is an understatement. Even his introduction to us in the scriptures, remember the story how Samuel the prophet comes and he says one of Jesse's sons is going to be the king, and he anoints. It's very much like the Cinderella story. Remember the prince comes and he can't find the slipper that fits the ugly stepsisters until he says, is there somebody else? And it's Cinderella, locked in the tower or whatever. Well, it's kind of what the David story was. Remember, they had this way where they would pour the oil from the ram's horn on and Samuel's like, nope, that's not this one. I forgot how many sons Jesse had, but it was a bunch of them. So he goes through all of them. And he's like, it's none of these. It's funny, if you're the youngest in a family, there's a lot of Bible stories that are in your corner, whether it's Joseph or whatever. The Bible writers seem to definitely favor the youngest, because David as king was so not on their radar screen that when he said, is there another son? Because none of these guys seem to be meeting the criteria. And they said, yeah, our little brother's a shepherd, but he's out with the animals. He smells bad, and it couldn't possibly be him. And he says, would you go find him? And they're like, are you serious? So they go find him, and sure enough, he's the one. And David, there was nobody like him. Now, some people in the Bible remind you of somebody else. It's easy for me to get Elijah and Elisha mixed up. It's like there's a lot of people that their stories are very similar. There's nobody like David. Nobody was as passionate as him. Nobody was outspoken. Nobody had mood swings like he did. I mean, David was all over he was probably bipolar. He was super creative. David would be one of those kind of people that, ladies, if David was flirting with you, you'd be like, I don't even need to have this conversation with you because I know you're a bad boy, and I know you are bad news, and something about me is going, the Lord is my shepherd. And David was, if I taught you what I really thought about David, even the story of David and Jonathan, he was very different from anybody you ever read about. And the thing that really brought him to our attention was the story of David and Goliath. It's a very strange story. Gath was a place where there were giants. And when they say giants, we're not talking about like science fiction, or Jack and the Beanstalk. They were like just really large men. They were, most estimates say Goliath was about 9 feet tall. Well, a lot of these NBA players are 7 something. So they're still with, like, if Goliath walked in here, you would definitely notice him, but it wouldn't be, like he could fit through the door. He could, you know what I mean? So it's not like he was, like Lilliput or something, And I'm saying that to say it's odd that this one giant intimidates this entire army. Somehow he got inside their head, and they just couldn't come up with a plan to, yeah, he's big, but there's a bunch of us, so why don't we all get together? We can take him. It's very interesting about how fear is contagious. And when you're around a lot of fearful people, before you know it, you start picking up their paranoia, and you're like, why am I like this? That's why you got to really surround yourself with positive people, because somehow that fear gene just infected that whole army. And so for days, they're intimidated by this one guy. I mean, wouldn't you think somebody would have said, look, he's big, but if we all get together, we can surround him and take him down, But they were like, they just somehow freaked out about it. So Jesse says to David, who's too young to go to battle, he says, I want you to take some food to your brothers, because some of his brothers had enlisted, so they're in this army. So David comes down, and he was not welcomed by his brothers, because he walks in, and he's like, what the heck is going on with you? He's just not that, he's not that big. And if you'll notice, his brother Eliab says, why don't you come down? He said, you're just here showing off. We hate you. You don't even know what you're talking about. And nobody could shut him up. Like everybody that tried to intimidate him, he'll turn to the next person and say, I can't believe you guys are this. So he's so full of the Yiddish word chutzpah, that they finally said, if for no reason than amusement, Saul's got to see this. Because this is just unbelievable. This kid is so plucky and so cheeky and so full of himself that he thinks, I honestly get the idea that maybe they were a little inspired by him and just wanting to laugh at him. Like, Saul's got to see this. Maybe this is some comic relief. And so he goes before Saul, and he makes such a case for himself that Saul's actually moved by it. And because Saul says, little boy, what makes you think you can fight this giant that all of my soldiers are afraid of? And he says, well, I can tell you this. I'm a shepherd, and one time a bear came and attacked my sheep, and I killed that bear, and I'm just a kid. And one time a lion came out, and I did that. And he was so confident, yes, so self-confident, so self-assured that Saul goes, you know what, this is crazy, but what the heck? Because clearly none of these guys are going to be able to do it. So, okay. So he says, all right, if you're going to do it, let me arm you. Let me put the armor on you. Now, this is the point of the story that I think most people miss. Because when we're traditionally taught David and Goliath, it's all about the power of God that overtook David, and it's a allegory that we use anytime we're attacking something that's bigger than us. And even people that don't know the Bible know about David and Goliath, the idea of the little guy taking on the big guy. And I remember when I just had when Jared was little, I felt like he was watching too much violent stuff now I don't care. But back then I thought he's seeing too much violent stuff. So I thought, I'm just going to read him Bible stories when I have him. So I said, which Bible story? And every night is like, read me about David and Goliath when he cut that giant's head off and walked around. I thought, my God, the Bible's way more violent than whatever you're watching on cartoons. Please, go back to cartoons. I mean, really, decapitation, to a 3-year-old? I mean, that's kind of, it's not something you want to go to sleep on, Good night. And then he sawed the ugly giant's head off and carried it around for days by his hair. Good night, buddy. That's kind of, that could be kind of unsettling. Especially, I've told you my literal mind, when they make me pray, now I'll lay me down to sleep. That always bothered me. I'm like, what? Is there something if I should die before I wake? Is there something the pediatrician has told you that I don't know about? Y'all aren't expecting me to make it till morning? This is a terrible idea to go to sleep on. If I should die before, I'm 7. I got to worry that I'm going to die before I wake up? My God. What don't I know that y'all need to tell me, They sing me Rockabye Baby. I'm like, seriously? You're tying a baby up on the top of a tree? This is child endangerment. Shouldn't somebody call DFACS? When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. Who is tying up babies in the tops of trees? This is horrible. This is why I'm an only child, because my parents are like, dear God, we can't shut him up, Good night, buddy. Don't let the bed bugs bite. What? There's infestation? Are you telling me we have bed bugs? We're crying out loud. Who are you people? So, This is the part that I think people miss, and it really shows it in the Message Bible. Let me just show you. I've given you the full story, but let me just show you a few verses that'll make my point. This is 32 through 39. Master said, David, don't give up hope. This is when he's talking to Saul. I'm ready to go and fight this Philistine. Saul answered, David, you can't go and fight this Philistine. You're too young and inexperienced, and he's been at this fighting business since before you were born. David said, I've been a shepherd tending sheep for my father. Whenever a lion or bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I'd go after it, knock it down, and rescue the lamb. If it turned on me, I'd grab it by the throat, wring its neck, and kill it. Praise the Lord. Don't tell the ASPCA. Lion or bear, it made no difference. I killed it. And I'll do the same to this Philistine pig who is taunting the troops of God alive. God, who delivered me from the teeth of the lion and the claws of the bear, will deliver me from this Philistine. Before we go on, let me say, as over the top as that is, that's a great principle to remember when you're facing something big, to remember what you've already come through. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. And so on this part, even though it's not the terminology I would use, I applaud David for that, because sometimes we forget, well, my God, I've already been through that, and I've already been through that, and that didn't kill me. So I figure, the giant is just a matter of degrees. If I could kill a bear and a lion, I mean, they're pretty scary. And you forget, as much as I love living in the now, sometimes it's important to remember the past. It's important. That's the point of testimony. Is let me tell you where I came from. Let me tell you what I got through. Mahalia Jackson came along and sang, how I got over. My soul looks back and wonder how I got over. In other words, I look back over my life and I think, how did I get through that? Well, clearly, there must be a God, and clearly I must be pretty strong. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from God, but I'm not taking anything away from me either. Like, I went through some stuff, and it's not just that God's strong. If you don't know how to access the power of God, it doesn't really do you any good. So it's not just God. Yeah, of course God's big, but I'm big too. God and me form a majority, and I've been through some stuff. And it's not easy to spook me now, because I did kill a bear. I did kill a lion. For us, it's not a literal bear and lion, but it's a thing you already went through and not only survived but prevailed, and it did make you more confident. Use all your stuff. Everything that's happened to you, use it to absorb into your own inner strength. It's good to remember that. Don't ever let anybody intimidate you about, I'll hear that story again. If it's a good story with a happy ending, you tell it as much as you can. Don't let anybody shut you down. Testimonies are important. They matter. They build our strength. It's good to remember where you came from. If you can't find anybody else to encourage you, you encourage yourself. You go look in that mirror and go, look, you've already been through stuff like this, and you've always figured out a way, and you will get through this one. Though I'm telling you, the more you do it as you get older, there's less and less stuff that just rocks your world, because you're just anchored, and you've just been through stuff. All right, but even that's not my point. Hang on. Saul said, "Go and God help you." Then Saul outfitted David as a soldier in armor. Well, that seems like good stewardship. I can't send this little boy out without armor. He put his bronze helmet on his head and belted his sword on him over the armor. Well, that's kind of an honor that the king of Israel is not just arming you, but he's giving you his own stuff. So there's a little bit of I'm rooting for you, boy. It's not just safety. There's a psychological, I'm affirming you. I don't give my sword to other people. Here's my sword. This is mine. You go fight like I would fight. Okay? And that's appreciative, but look at this. David tried to walk, but he could hardly budge. And here's the point that people miss. David told Saul, I can't even move with all this stuff on me. I'm not used to this. And he took it all off. What's that got to do with unlocking your own kingdom? the thing that made David strong. Yes, it was God. Y'all know I believe in God, all right? So I'm not trying to make the case, Bishop, you better give God the glory. No, God knows. God's secure. God knows. I'm talking about us right now. The thing that made David strong is he knew he had to be himself. And when Saul puts this armor on, yeah, it's comforting. Yeah, it's got a special energy on it because it's the king's. But I'm not Saul. And there's a way that you fight. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying, I know y'all going to think I'm crazy, but I have to do this my way. As, you know, thank you for that very tepid applause. Are y'all really? As many people as may have made fun of Frank Sinatra's song that actually, what's his name, wrote that? Having my baby. That who's the Paul Anka. Paul Anka wrote that. Of course, y'all would know that. It's actually a very cool song because it's him. It's a man looking back over his life and he says, "Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention." And his point is, the point of that song, "I Did It My Way," is, look, I own my life. The mistakes I've made, I admit to them, but at least I lived my life under my own terms. Now, I know I'm singing this theme all the time. You know, authenticity is way important for me. And not just for any one reason. I just think it's important to be authentic across the board. Because even in religious settings, I see people going through the motions of doing religious things that I know they don't actually believe in. And it's not really their revelation. But that's what you do. You know, that's what we believe. That's what we sing. That's what we, whatever. And they're trying to fight Goliath, wearing the Goliaths of their life, wearing somebody else's armor. And as appreciative as it is, Saul, thank you that you're wanting to protect me. Thank you that you feel some kind of connection with me enough that you want to give me your own sword. I'm not disrespecting the king. I'm just telling you the thing that has always worked for me up till now is me doing it my way. Now, sometimes Christians Christians are afraid of this. They're like, no, you got to do it God's way. You got to do it God's way. How is God's way? God made you the way that you are. And whatever your strengths are, God put those things in you. And for you to say, well, I know this is the way I would do it, but I think he wants me to do it another way. No, your personality is the handiwork of God. And sometimes your own personality works against you. You know, I've taught this years ago, and I think it's an important teaching. You know, like, for instance, you meet somebody that's a pathological liar. Like, everything that comes out of their mouth is a lie. What if they were really made to be someone who could call those things which are not as though they are? And they just don't know how to move it in the right direction, so the thing that's a strength for them becomes a weakness. What if the person that's whiny, that they're just always whining about stuff, what if they're really geared to be a great intercessor? What if it really is just the compassion they feel and the something in them that makes them want to cry out for the underprivileged? You got the Martin Luther Kings that learned how to channel that to helping the underdog and the disenfranchised. Some people never get to that point. They just talk about how bad the world is. What if everybody has great potential, and it is not about altering your personality? That is such a lie. When people say, no, we're Christians, you're not supposed to be like you anymore, you're supposed to be like Jesus. I think, first of all, I don't think any one person can be like Jesus. I think we are all the Christ. And each of us have something that's, a characteristic of his. That's why the eye cannot say to the hand, you understand all that. But to say I personally am trying to be like Jesus is, first of all, it's unattainable. And it's also kind of arrogant, because what you need to say is, well, there's a part of me that's very much like him. Well, if you're the type of person that's running in houses and flipping tables over all the time and messing up the furniture, you could say, I'm like Jesus. That's what. Well, fine, but we're not inviting you over to our house because every time you come, you flip all the furniture over. So I'm glad you're like Jesus, but you're kind of a. We don't know what to do with you. You could make that case. If somebody said, "Why are all your friends prostitutes?" Trying to be like Jesus. I mean, you could. Just trying to be like Jesus. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you get an imbalanced thing, you could find anything about what Jesus was a very complex personality. He was passionate at times, he was passive at times. Many times he would say the thing that you did not expect him to say. Half the things I read that Jesus said, I'm like, wow, if I had been in that conversation, I would not have seen that coming. Like even last week, what we talked about with the talents, the man take from the man who had the least and give it to the man who has the most. That doesn't even sound Christian. Where's Jesus' social conscience? You should give to the man. So Jesus could totally surprise you. If you were one of the apostles, anytime Jesus would ask you a question, you'd have to get to a point where you're like, is this a trick question? Because usually, especially if you were Peter. Remember Peter says, I say you're the Christ and the Son of the living God. And he says, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you. And within the same chapter, Jesus says, I'm going to Jerusalem to be killed. And he says, we'll never let that happen to you. And he says, get behind me, Satan. If I were Peter, I'd be like, seriously, Satan? Just a few minutes ago, I was the rock you were going to build the church on. And now you really had to go there? Satan? Couldn't you have just said, oh, now, Peter, I know you're just looking out for me, but you need to understand this is part of a bigger picture. But really, in front of all my boys here, you had to call me Satan. Because they're going to rag me about this. Like as soon as you walk away, they're going to be going, I'm never going to live this down. For the rest of my life now, they're not going to call me rock. They're going to, here comes Satan, the devil made me do it, Well, yes. That's another teaching. She was saying he is both. Exactly. We are everything. Do you know what I mean? That's why when you... Did you just get it, Wellington? But that is true. And so this idea of I'm trying to alter my personality so that I can be like you, to be a Christian or to be godly or whatever, it's so wrong. And if you just go back and look, Jesus was clearly accepting everybody. If you look even when he says, remember he says this thing about, did I not choose 12 of you and one of you is a devil? And he's talking about Judas. And he said, I knew it going into it. I knew that's who you were. And yet he gave them all power over unclean spirits. I mean, they all could work miracles. So it wasn't like this idea that this personality type is okay, but this one isn't. It's not backed up from the Gospels. As a matter of fact, every personality type is accepted. You just have to learn how, like it's very dangerous to ever bring up Hitler. But you think about a man that could influence a nation like he did. What would his potential have been if his life circumstances had been different, if he hadn't been so anti-Semitic or whatever? He could have had the potential of being a great world leader because he could clearly get relatively nice people to do horrible things. So for the most part, that's a strength, right? But because of prejudices and all it spirals downward. I mean, the very thing that, if you're not careful, the very thing that's your greatest strength can be your Achilles heel. And so everybody has to watch it. I know I do. I don't want to alter my personality, and I know there's things about my personality that I'm like, God, I wish I didn't express myself that way, but that's what makes me a good teacher. It also makes me kind of, you got to understand how to, y'all know this. By now you're like, look, At this point, there ain't nothing you could say. You can't surprise us anymore. There's nothing you could say. We're here. I'm sure, especially those of you that have known me for years, there has to have been something along the way that I said that you disagreed with or hurt your feelings or whatever. Stop shaking your head so big. I get it. And right back at you. Y'all have all said stuff that I'm like, I am not believing. You just said this. You cannot believe some of this. Not so much now, but back when the church was big, the stuff people would say to me while I'm just telling people goodbye at the door, it's just unbelievable. If you didn't have a strong belief in yourself, you could never even go out and talk. You know, one person would be like, oh my God, that sermon changed my life. And the very next person was, you know, every time you nearly start to be anointed, you get on some stupid story again and you start telling stuff and you've gained weight. You know, I mean, I am not kidding. Some people's like, why aren't you out there at the door greeting people? Like, you go out there, see if you can handle it one after another. So you just learn. You don't take the compliments that seriously, and you don't take the insults that seriously. It's like, well, you know, you don't take anything personally. So there's a key here, the fact that, I love this, he says, and he took it all off. In other words, he says, all right, I'm going to take the helmet off, but I'll take the sword. In other words, it's like, I have to do it my way. And if I go out there and get killed by this guy, then so be it. I understand I have to do it my way. Now, there's a fine line here. Like, none of us should be unteachable. So you don't want to just say, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, because whatever you do does affect people. So there's a balancing act that comes with, all right, I realize my actions have, you know, recourse and ramifications, but I have to do it my way. I have to. And I've got Bible for it here. If the Bible is going to be your authenticator, then this is what made David strong. If you go back and look at especially all the Old Testament stories that were very grandiose and over the top, you'll notice nearly all the people who did these exploits, there was always a thing. Like, for instance, with Samson, whether the Samson story was literal or not. You know what made him strong? It wasn't the length of his hair. It's that he had made a Nazirite vow that he would never cut his hair. So to him, keeping that vow that's what strengthened him. If you just said, well, I'm going to grow my hair out long and I'll be strong. Well, no, that's not going to work for you. For him, there was a key to it. And this is what I'm talking about, keys. Even, I was in a pretty intense conversation last week with these two. And sometimes Jack will say something that's really kind of simple but really profound. And we were talking about the idea of unlocking yourself with keys of the kingdom. It kind of was the incubation of this message. And you know, I've taught you for years, Jesus gave us the keys of the kingdom, so you just keep going around that key ring till you find one that unlocks the door. And Jack said, well, sometimes the keys come one at a time. They don't all come on a key ring. And I said, that's very interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's some lessons you've learned that you wouldn't have been ready for 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, all right, here's this key. And you got to really think sometimes if you want to unlock stuff. Sometimes when you find out stuff about yourself, you're like, wow, really? Is that who I am? And, you know, it's, you know what I'm talking about? And that's a very simple statement. Yeah, but you think about that. Sometimes we're adding keys on the key ring one by one. You know the old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. There's such a truth to that. You know, there's things people can say to me now that I think, my God, if you'd said that to me 20 years ago, This would have ended this relationship. But I understand what you're saying. We can get past it. The lion and the bear were keys. Here's one. Here's another. And sometimes, if I'm really just going to torture this metaphor, sometimes it's like you don't get the next key until, yeah. David, you're not ready to kill a giant yet. You go kill that lion, and then we'll talk. And the people that win, there's a lot of revelation going on here today. The people who win the race pace themselves. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm telling you, I've learned some lessons. I'm like, crap, I know that's the truth, but ouch, that one hurts. And you're going to have to give me a minute to get my equilibrium. I'm not so ready. I'm ready to, I don't know that I want to unlock this door yet. I'm not sure I want to find out. You know those things on Facebook? I do them sometimes where you can like, who is your soulmate? Who is your whatever? You hit it, and it's just algorithms they use on the stuff that's on your Facebook page. And sometimes they're amazingly accurate, and sometimes they're just so off base. It's like so, this is funny, I haven't told you this, but it says, who do you look exactly like? And Beth came up because I think Beth, she follows me on Facebook, so she's usually the first one to like on something, so she gets put in. And I looked at Beth and I thought, you know, we could kind of pass for siblings. I could see that. I wouldn't have thought it otherwise, but I thought, I guess. If somebody said we're from the same family, yeah, that's not totally out of the realm of possibility. You know, if you said me and Fred look exactly alike, you're like, okay, I guess. Yeah, somewhat, but you know what I mean. What was my point? Where was I was talking about information. Huh? Yeah, but what did that have to do with? Oh, just figuring out who you are. Because I'm reading, she's not here today, but they've been out of town. But one of them was, who's your drinking buddy? And I came up with Francis. So I said to her, Francis, I don't know if you knew this, but when I want to throw him back, you apparently are my boo. She wrote back, she said, that made my day. I said, well, I didn't post it on my page. But it's funny because you read stuff and you think, wow, is that who I am? And then sometimes, like last Sunday, it was find a word that's for you. And I hit it, and mine came up leader. And I thought, okay, good. Ken's came up loving. And I was like, okay, that sounds about right. Then there's sometimes you read something like, oh, hell no, that ain't true. Next. All right. I got to move on because there's so much to this. Let me show you this. This is Matthew 16, verse 13 through 19 in the Message. And this is where Jesus is talking about the keys of the kingdom. He says, when Jesus arrived in the villages of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, what are people saying about who the Son of Man is? Now that right there is interesting. Doesn't Jesus know who he is? And if he does know who he is, why is it subjective to them? Why doesn't he just state, this is who I am and you better realize it? He's basically saying, in effect, I am who you say I'm going to be. They replied, some think he is John the Baptizer, some say Elijah, some Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He pressed them, and how about you? Who do you say I am? Simon Peter said, you're the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Jesus came back. God bless you, Simon, son of Jonah. You didn't get that answer out of books or from teachers. My Father in heaven, God himself, let you in on this secret of who I really am. Look at this. And now I'm going to tell you who you really, really are. And there's no way to do italics on this, but in the Message, it's really, and then really is italicized. So he's saying, I want to show you who you really, really are. Implying that until I know who God is, I can never know who I am. And the Spirit of truth is going to lead me into all truth. And some things I found out about myself are uncomfortable. Bishop, you're too sensitive. Sometimes I am, and that's what makes me compassion. That's what makes me a good pastor. Sometimes it can be a pain when I want to just blow stuff up, because I do feel things deeply. But I don't want to lose that ability to feel, because if I lost that and I just didn't care what anybody thought, I couldn't empathize with people. So you have to learn how to accept these are the parts of your personality that are just, they're not going to change because they're not supposed to change. And sometimes it's going to require the people in your life just have a little endurance. You know, I've said this to you for years. Those of you that understand how I minister, not everybody gets it. And like sometimes when you bring somebody in, they're like, he's just telling, what's he doing? You want to go, just wait for it. He's going to tell this story. And we said it so many times we can say it with him. But just wait. He does this. But then all of a sudden, he'll just say this thing that just changes your life. And you have to know how to wait for it. You're like, wait for it. Funny story, rabbit trail. Something has nothing to do with what we're talking about. This is why we put up with all the other stuff, because wait for it. And then you say it, and they're like, holy, what the what? Nobody's ever known that before. You're like, see, this is why we stayed with him so long. You got to learn how to, you got to crack the crab legs open, and you got a big pile of shells. But when the meat finally comes, Lord Jesus, it was worth getting up for. You heard me? All right. So he says, I'm going to tell you who you really, really are. You are Peter, a rock. Now, doesn't that sound a little contrary to Peter's personality? Peter's the guy that swears he doesn't know Jesus. Peter's the guy that cuts somebody's ear off. He's very impetuous and doesn't think before he acts. On the day of Pentecost, he's the first one that stands up and he goes, I'm going to tell you something. This thing that's happened in the upper room, this is that was spoken by the prophet Joel. That's a very abstract idea that you could take Joel's prophecy that's talking about the sun and moon turning to blood and saying, this is that? I mean, that's thinking. It's the kind of thing that if you thought about it too much, you'd be like, I'd like to tell you all this is that spoken by prophet Joel. But you're going to think, I'm crazy, But he was exactly right. And what Jesus was saying is, Peter, I put up with all this other stuff because you don't even realize that you are a rock. You think that people may think that you're flighty, you're too passionate or whatever, but I see the real you. I mean, that's in so much art. Like Cyndi Lauper song, I see your true colors shining through, and that's why I love you. Or even in the movie Avatar, remember that was the big scene, like, I see you. It's very frustrating when somebody doesn't see you. They see who they think you are. We all have labels that are true. I mean, there are certain things about men that are true, certain things about women that are true, certain things about ethnic groups. I mean, and I'm not talking about racial stereotypes. I'm just saying there's some things that are like, yeah, okay, that's part of my label, all right, but that's not all of who I am. That's one aspect of me, but that's not, and again, I have no issue with, there's some fine, what you would call gay churches here in Atlanta. And I have no issue with those guys. I think they fulfill a certain niche that is important. That's not what I do. I don't just connect with people because of that one part of my life. I want a place where people can just be who they are. And you can just walk in and go, this is my husband, this is my wife. And people aren't like, what? How could that be your husband? God didn't make Adam and Steve. He made Adam and I don't have time for that nonsense. I just want to be in a place where people can say, oh, this is who you are. And if you're in an interracial relationship or whatever, people, oh, glad to meet you. Not, oh, believe it. Because you get a lot of that stuff in churches. I mean, I used to, especially years ago, I used to hear this all the time, especially from interracial couples that would tell me, we can't go to a white church or a black church. Because when we go to a white church, there's certain things we hear. We go to a black church, we hear certain things, and we don't fit in either place. I'm like, well, I am your pastor. Because we don't care. We're like, all right, is this who you are? Fine. I'm not trying to be up in your business. Like when I meet somebody and I say, oh, are y'all friends? Are y'all together? I'm not trying to mind your business. I'm just trying to figure out, well, who are you? Because I don't care. If you say, oh, I just met somebody just met online. I thought I'd bring them to church today. Fine. I don't care. I'm just trying to. I don't care. That actually did happen recently. There was somebody that came to church, and I made a joke about, I bet y'all met on, and they actually did meet on that site. I said, I guess I better stop making this joke. I thought I was being. No condemnation. No condemnation. We all got to. All right. He says, this is the other rock on which I will put together my church. A church so expansive with the energy that not even the gates of hell will be able to keep it out. And that's not all. You will have complete and free access to God's kingdom, keys to open any and every door. No more barriers between heaven and earth and heaven. That's where he says, whatever you bind on earth is bound in heaven. A yes on earth is a yes in heaven. A no on earth is a no in heaven. Here's what he's saying. That's when we're talking about the kingdom of you, unlocking the kingdom of you. God will be who you believe that he will be. God will be who you will let him be. Who do men say that I am? If you can get Sammy on a roll, he can do like what the Pentecostals used to do in their, Jesus has been my doctor. He's been my lawyer. He's been my... And there is a truth to that, whatever I needed him to be. Even last time Jonah was here, he sang that song, Elijah Rock. And she says, some call him Saul, some call him the Rose of Sharon, some call him the what. But I can tell you he's been a rock and a shelter for me. In other words, I can't answer all of the theological stuff. I can just tell you I called on him and he helped me out. The blind boy says, I don't know if he's good or bad. I just know I was blind last week and now I can see. I'm not making a judgment call on whether he's good or bad or not. And I love this, that Jesus says, the keys I'm going to give you is not only going to show you who God is, it's going to show you who you are, and you're going to be okay with who you are. And that is a part of Christianity that has been sorely missing, because we have been taught from the pulpit it's not okay to be who you are, for whatever reason. I know I heard it. I know there was a whole part of my life that I thought, well, if that's who God is, then I've got to figure out an alternative way to, because if God doesn't like people like me, what am I going to do? To be able to say God loves you, and not just loves you, but accepts you just as you are. Paul picks up on this one word in the first chapter of Ephesians. He says, we are accepted in the beloved. Loving somebody is one thing. That's why I'm all about unconditional love, but it also irritates me when people say, I love you unconditionally. Because basically what you're saying is, oh, I'm not lovable enough for you just to love me because there's something to love about me. You got to love me unconditionally. I mean, I get it, but I'd like you to love me because I'm lovable. And baby, lovable doesn't mean perfect. There's too much of this stuff going on with relationships where people say, I loved you until you said this, and now I don't love you anymore. Really? That's your concept of I don't even want to use the word covenant. Just the word, that's not even the way life works. I love to live in the city. There's things about the city that I don't like. Yeah, traffic's a hassle. Yes, when it's the 20th panhandler in one night who's asking me for money, after a while I'm like, I'm good. Don't ask y'all, sometimes I want to put a sign on me like, I don't have any cash on me. When I visit somebody at Grady Hospital, I empty my pockets and I get out of the car walking and going, I don't have any cash on me, because as soon as I get out, it's like Night of the Living Dead. Everybody starts walking toward me. I'm like, I don't have any cash. As soon as I say that, they turn around. Because I know I look like money, and I'm like, if you're hungry, I'll get you something to eat. Lord knows I have taken people in that McDonald's next to Grady for 20 years or 40 years. Not so much lately, but I don't know if you've ever been called to the Grady emergency room at 3 o'clock in the morning. I have been. It's really interesting. Did you ever see the episode of Star Wars where they're in the, like all the bar scene? When a guy's talking to you and he's got a knife in his neck, he's going, man, you got $3 I could borrow? I'm like, okay, are you aware there's a knife in your neck? There's like a knife in your neck. I mean, I'll give you $3. I mean, heck, I'll give you $5. The fact that you're walking around. But you know, bruh, there's a knife. Oh, yeah, they got my name. They're going to get it out. I'm like, wow. You don't see that every day. And Grady's a fine hospital. I'm just saying it's the epicenter of a lot of stuff that's in the city that I'm willing to indulge because I like living in the city. If you're not, then don't live in the city. But don't criticize somebody else for doing it. If you want to live in the country, if that's what makes you happy, you should be able to live there and not even have to explain it. After a while, don't you get tired of just trying to explain everything about yourself? Like, I just want to be who I am and say what I say, and don't overthink everything, and don't believe the worst about me. And and we've all done it. I've sent texts out and didn't get a text back, and you think, what? Why are they texting me back? Well, sometimes they didn't get the text, or what, and if you don't know, you build up this thing in your head. I've done it before where I'm like, I am not believing all I've done for you. You can't return the text. And it goes on. Have they returned? No, it's been 3 days. And then you look, oh, I never hit send. Oh, I guess that's on me. All right, let me wrap this up. The great, iconic Thomas Merton said this: we have the choice of two identities, the external mask, which seems to be real, and the hidden inner person who seems to us to be nothing but who can give himself eternally to the truth in whom he subsists. Now that sounds very lofty language, but what he's saying is the real you, the you that is the rock, that's what you really believe. I love, one of my favorite Bible stories is the man that comes to Jesus with his son was probably epileptic is what it was. And, he goes into a seizure, and the kid, he might have even had a situation. I know people that have children that are suicidal. He says he doesn't just have seizures, he throws himself in a fire. I mean, can you imagine? How could you sleep at night? How could you relax? Especially when you got a fire going in your house 24 hours a day. I've got a kid that throws himself in the fire. This man's exhausted. He comes to Jesus and he says, I brought my son to your disciples and they couldn't do anything. And Jesus says, well, if you can believe, all things are possible. And the man goes, I just hear such a fatigue in his voice. He's like, yeah, I do believe. But would you help my unbelief? There's so much in it. It's like, yeah, Jesus, I believe and I want to believe, but Jesus, I don't know if you've ever had a special needs child that is suicidal. I mean, you're gonna have to cut me some slack. Help my unbelief. There's such an honesty in that. I think every one of us can relate to it on some level. I do believe. I want to believe. Why would I have gotten up this morning and driven over if I didn't believe? But yeah, Jesus, there's some days I got to say, help my unbelief. Because there's some days I do want vengeance on my enemies. And I am greedy. And I do have thoughts that I'm ashamed of. Whatever. Yes, that's a part of me. But I do believe. Just help my unbelief. It's not like Jesus said, next. We don't tolerate unbelief here. Be gone. What is it? He gets results. Jesus says, fair enough. There's so much fairness in I'll probably talk about it next week, the woman at the well. Such a powerful story because she just gives it all up. She goes, I don't have a husband. And Jesus says, you've well said. You've had 5 husbands and you're living with a man now. And the Father is looking for people just like you. What? That's not what I heard in church. No, he says that God's a spirit. And they that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. You can't lie about yourself and worship God. We used to sing, here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. In other words, it's me with all my stuff. I'm not saying the stuff's not there. Let's go on. I've quoted this person a lot, but I like this quote. One of the greatest regrets in life is being what others would want you to be rather than being yourself. Please tell me you're getting this. Having Saul's armor is an honor. Do you understand? It's an honor. And even at that, David said, I just can't do it this way. And you do know the rest of the story. He goes out and gets 5 stones out of the creek. And anybody that knows anything about warfare would be like, little buddy, that's sweet and all. I don't think you understand. You can't take this giant down with your little rocks. Your rocks are cute and all, but no, this is like warfare with spears and swords. And what does he do? Because he's in the power of God, but he's in the power of David. It's the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. Remember, that's so important. I hate when people say, oh, it's all God. No, it's not all God, and God never said it was supposed to be all him. There's a reason he made you. In the traditional church, we used to say, y'all don't listen to us while we sing, while we try to sing this song. Well, then why are you here then if we're not going to listen to you? Yes, you're hearing the word. You're here today. Yes, you love the word, but you love, crazy as it may be, you love the way I see the word. And so there's something in you that agrees with that because you say, well, call me crazy too. That's how I see it. And you say things that confirm things that I felt like I already know. All right, well then fine. So yes, it is somewhat about me. When people say it shouldn't be built on a personality, that's nonsense. Of course it is. There's a reason why you're connected to somebody's revelation is because you like the way they talk about God. And somebody says, oh, you love the Bible? Let's talk about the Bible all night. Well, let's see who you are first. You know, what are you going to be talking about? Because I don't want to sit and argue with you all night. And if you're interested in the things I'm interested in, yeah, and you got some revelation, I'll talk. But just talk about the Bible. Other things I could say, but I need to keep moving. Emerson says, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Hear, hear. I love that line. Thank you, Saul, for the armor, but he took all of it off. Would it be safe to say that if he had wobbled out there with all that armor and tried to do it the conventional way, don't you think he would have, I don't think he would have prevailed over him. And it wasn't just the power of God. It was I'm sure that giant's looking at this kid like, I'm not believing you're this full of yourself that you think, like Goliath is insulted by it. He says, am I a dog that you send this kid out in front of me? And it was nearly like psychological warfare. You know, the last thing you're expecting is a skinny teenager to come out and throw rocks at you. And yet, it worked. What works? When you trust your instincts, when you do what's right for you. I can tell you this. Whatever you can disagree with me about my theology, and God knows many have. But you can't say it's not who I'm quoting. I will say, oh, it's like Bishop Pearson said, or whatever. But for the most part, when I talk about something, I challenge you to Google it and see if you can find it. I don't go to sermon.com as many megachurch pastors do. I have to talk about things that it's the way I see God. And if I get something from somebody, if I quote y'all. Oh, so-and-so said this to me. I believe in giving credit to you know what I hate? if I post a quote on Facebook, I've searched for it. You know what I mean? It's like I'm looking for it. I hate when somebody goes, oh, I like this. I'm stealing it. You don't have to steal it. You can share it. And let me tell you why I don't like when people, I'm going to steal it. Because I've had people say, oh, I'd like to share your stuff on my page, but my friends just wouldn't understand me quoting somebody like you. You know what? You need to unfriend me. If you're that afraid that you're friends, I love when somebody shares. It says this is what, because it's not, yes, it's somebody else's quote, but it's coming through my paradigm of something I thought was important today. It's dishonoring to say I'm going to steal it when there's a little button that says share. Leona, you are the joy of my life. You're so. All right. Thoreau, I can't quote Emerson without quoting Thoreau. And he says, be yourself, not your idea of what you think somebody else's idea of yourself should be. Do you see how important this is? If David were to go to counseling and say, I'm thinking about going to fight this giant, and I'm going to go to the Saul, wouldn't the conventional wisdom be, well, you better let them arm you? And then if you said, well, I did go and Saul offered me his armor. Well, you can't not, you're going to insult the king if you don't use his armor. You can't just spit on that. I mean, if he gave you his armor, you have no choice. David says, no offense, I got to do it. I've got to do it this way. Saul's key, not David's key. Yes. My key will open my front door. You can use somebody else's front door key. It's not going to open that door. I don't care. It's a perfectly good key. It's not your key. And then I've used this before. It's really interesting how he got this, because in King James it's, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Here the message says, you're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more and no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. And the only way I can figure that he got that from blessed are the meek is the idea that meekness, we've always defined it as strength under perfect control. And it is, but also sometimes meekness can be being so passive about who you really are that you let somebody hijack your personality. That's when meekness becomes a negative. It's like, I don't know enough of who I am to really be who I am, so you tell me who I am. You tell me what I like. You tell me what I want. You tell me what I believe. And he's saying the real definition of meekness is saying, I'm not being arrogant and being myself. It's just this is the only way I know how to do it. Jonah, aside from being a musician, he was always just a natural athlete. None of my boys are, sports isn't high priority with them. They weren't raised in a sports household. But if they did something, they were really good at it. And Jonah particularly, he just picked up something immediately. Like I took him to Rockefeller Center. He'd never ice skated before. Put him on the ice. He just took off. And I remember I took Jonah and him one time to snowboarding, skiing and snowboarding. And I paid for lessons, whatever. He hated them. He said, and he came over to me. I don't remember how old you were. He said, Dad, can I just do it my way? And I'm thinking, I know, but these guys know it. He said, just please. And I understood, because he picked up a lot of my personality on that. And I said, all right, do it. Took right off, never had a problem with it. And I realized, well, that's the way he is. He's just going to have to, there's a place for lessons. Lessons, we did give him drum lessons. But sometimes you just have to, and people are not going to understand it. And people that think there's a system are going to resent it, and they're going to think that you're, disrespecting the method. I've got to shut up. I'm going too long. I'm getting too long-winded. Let's all stand. No, I know it's good. I know it's good. Y'all dragging it out of me. It's y'all's fault. I've been trying to go for the last 20 minutes, and y'all been pulling on me. I've been trying to get up out of here. But blessed are the meek means accept who you are, every part of you. And accepting who you are doesn't mean you like every part of it. Doesn't mean there aren't some parts that need improvement. I don't particularly like when I drive to my loft, there's a bunch of guys sleeping under the bridge, and there's a part of you that always wants to go, why do they have to put all that stuff out there? But then I think, well, they don't have any place to go. And it's easy for me to say, so I'm just going to, well, yeah, it comes with the territory. It just does. And I hope they're going to be okay and make it through the night. And me not just be so smug that I think you're making my house look bad. Well, where else are they going to go? I have a place to go. That would really tick me off. God said, yeah, that's fine. You're on the guys living under the bridge. You had a roof. All right. And that's the way we are about ourselves. There's things about ourselves. It is what it is. Good stuff. Keys of the kingdom. Unlock you. Be you. Please remain standing, and we'll run this, and then I'll speak a blessing over you.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. Simply text the amount you would like to give to 404-620-5044. And now you can give anytime by texting this number. You will then receive a one-time registration form that links your phone number and opens your account at SimpleGive. Complete the form, and you will then receive a successful registration and donation page. For additional information on your account, visit bishopthenow.com and click the Support tab.
What it looks like. You hit
Then
support,
My Online Donation.
and then you can scroll down. And there's
When you contribute to Metron,
you give to the things that we support.
thank you for your investment in Metron.
And thank you for. I will now interpret it with interpretive dance.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. Simply text the amount you would like to give
This is the blessing I'm going to leave
to
you with.
404.
You are. You're good enough. You're worthy enough. You're smart enough. You're beautiful enough. Who told you were naked? Who told you were anything less than God's ideal? And if religion told you that, let me tell you, religion's full of it. You need to believe the truth. The truth will make you free. And I pray that you find your own keys that will unlock the real you, that you can live out the rest of your life in authenticity and be who you are and know that God accepts you and loves you just like you are. And there's nothing that needs to change. If any change happens, it's just you need to become a better version of who you are and who you've always been. Play to your strengths. Be strong in the Lord and the power of His might, but also in the power of your might. You're going to have a blessed day, a blessed week, and you wake up tomorrow saying, this is the day the Lord has enabled me to make. I will rejoice and be glad in it. God bless you. Go in peace. Love you.